So I've wanted to do this video for a while, but I felt like I just didn't have enough time to do it properly. But with the break, I finally had the time. So here's me breaking down this yellow problem. So I find that a lot of the times when you film a boulder problem, they don't give it proper context. So I went well out of my way and decided to 3D render out this problem. You can see that the start holds are really close together. You have that right foot, the right crimp, and then your left hand on the sloper. It puts you in this really tight box. Then you throw up from there to this triangle, which is okay, it's a pinch, but it's kind of sloping away from the wall. Then you throw your left hand out to this baguette-shaped pinch and try to get your left foot on that little chip. Then you can throw your right hand up to that small crimp that's kind of sloping away, and then a left hand undercling to this crimp on the volume. And then your right hand on top of the volume, and you have to compress to finally cross through and land on these last two finish holds. And so I showed this angle just so you can see how overhanging the wall actually is. All the holds kind of slope away from it at that angle. And you can see how the volume is actually just like a really bad sloper. It's hard to hold on to at that angle. So here you can see my first-ish attempt at this problem. I actually don't have footage of it, but it went something like this. This is how I saw everyone else start the problem. You can see that I just don't fit that well. This is a consistent complaint of mine, is high feet. I get in a box of myself. You can see my knees almost touching my shoulder. And when I move to the next hold, I just kind of pop all out of place, out from the wall, and I can't actually hit it. I don't have footage of that, but you can imagine what that might look like. So it was at this point that I decided, hey, at this gym, you only have hand starts. The feet don't really matter as long as it belongs to the problem, so I'd start it my own way. So I tried from the other foot, and I end up crossing too far over my own body, and the lever is just too much, and as you can tell, I am not happy with that result. So then I went back to this original position, but I did something a little different. And you can see when I rotate my knee inside of my elbow, it gives me just enough space to pull my hips in tighter and get closer to the wall. So when I throw for the next hold, I'm launching up instead of out. Now I still can't control it, but there's something here I learned, and although I'm disappointed, I walked away with more information. So I decided after some rest on a new day that maybe this is a problem that I could do. I'd walked past it so many times because I just knew that start position would be terrible for me. So here's my first attempt fresh. I hit the hold, I swang out a lot, pretty uncontrolled, and too many campus moves. There's no way it was going to go down that way, no matter how hard I tried. When I realized how taxing campusing was, I knew I needed to get a foot on the wall somewhere, somehow, and the only foot I had was that left chip. And here are the same moves from a slightly different angle. You can see I start to control that foot and it feels a bit better. But if I want to control that crimp, it still felt like I needed to get my feet on there a bit earlier, but I thought it was worth one more go, so I tried it again. And that crimp is just terrible to hold on to when you're even remotely tired. So I knew I needed to get that foot on just a little earlier somehow. And I think you can start to see after each attempt how my movements become a little bit more controlled each time. And here's my first time getting that foot up before I move to that baguette-shaped hold. And it feels a lot better. Unfortunately, the crimp doesn't feel any better. And here you can kind of see those moves close up to get a better sense of what they look like and exactly what that crimp looks like. You can see it slopes away just a little bit, and that's just enough to make it really hard. And here's just one last shot of that same sequence, but at a slower frame rate. It just helps you see the kind of precision that it takes, as well as the precision that I was trying to hit to actually be able to control each move and be more efficient with my energy. Hopefully it's pretty obvious that each one of these moves is super controlled, and the more you swing, the more likely it is that you won't be able to finish the problem. And again, crossing through my body to this crimp proved very difficult, but I started to feel like the further I flagged and smeared the roof of the wall, the better I could control hitting it and the less I swung out. So I rested, felt a bit more confident, and I thought after that the cruxes were over, and I thought I could just use the undercling crimp on the volume and just finish it out. But foreshadowing, I was wrong. As you saw in the 3D rendering, this volume is really slopey and you have to compress super hard to control it, but it still felt close. And here is that crimp under the volume from a slightly closer angle. You can also see the crimp to the right and get a better sense of how kind of poor these holds actually are. And I don't think my rendering did justice to the crimp under the volume. I think it's actually smaller than I rendered it out. It's maybe like half a pad. With all the information I'd gathered, I was sure I could finish this problem. So I hopped back on, took some deep breaths, and gave it my all. I think you can start to see how much more controlled each move is. This is not a problem where you want a lot of momentum. But you can still see how bad that volume actually is to hold. So obviously that wasn't my Sengo, so I rested thoroughly, drank some water, again took some deep breaths, and hopped back on for the real final go. And here it is, the final unedited video of me sending the problem. In this attempt, I actually managed to not cut my feet at the start, which is the most controlled I was ever able to do it. So yeah, I hope you liked this video and my breakdown of this boulder. I'd like to do some more of them in the future, but if you can tell, it took a lot of effort and work to do something like this. So, I mean, if you enjoyed it, please like the video and think about subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, until next time, take it easy.